Welcome, teachers. This training is designed to provide you with foundational information for teaching World Study 7. I'm going to share my screen in just a moment to share and go through some slides with you about what it means and what it's like to teach Global Humanities 7. And if you're new to World Study 7, we're also opening up this module course for you so you can just gain a general overview of the information. The first thing that I want to talk about, regardless if you're new to teaching Global Humanities or you're just new to teaching in general, is kind of the goals of the Global Humanities 7 course, which coincide with the goals of Global Humanities 6, with American Studies 8. The courses for the Global Humanities and the courses for the World Studies all kind of center around kind of three main components or focus. The first being the skills infusion. Skills, first and foremost, are essential component of the rewrites that happened in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We wanted to make sure that we intertwined the skills throughout the content. And so it was seen as an integral part of the course, not as an additional component. And each skill provides, each level, to include Global Humanities, provides opportunities for students to practice the skills prior to the culminating assessment, whatever that should be. Additionally, an additional goal was relevance. We wanted students to see connections between what they're studying from the past to today. And so there's opportunity to make connections between relevant content, materials, and topics of today as you go through the content. And last but not least, the point of the World Study 7 Global Humanities course is to help prepare students for the state assessment that happens in 8th grade. Just for clarification purposes, that assessment will cover the skills. It will not cover the content of 6th and 7th grade. And so when you're thinking to yourself, how can I support students that will essentially end up in 8th grade and have to take this MSDE exam, you want to be focusing on the skills, which spiral in complexity. So what they start in 6th grade gets another layer added to it throughout 7th, throughout 8th, and then as they pursue their high school courses, 9th, 10th, and 11th, those same skills continue throughout. But again, the level of complexity and what is asked of them changes through each course. And we'll have an opportunity to go through that as we look and dive a little bit deeper into the framework and to the skills as well. All right, so let's talk framework. What is it and how do you use it? So regardless of if you are a Global Humanities teacher or a World Study 7 teacher, you are starting at the same place. The framework is a digital living document that we store on their MCPS website, and it's aligned to MSDE standard, and it covers the skills and content you need to be able to implement in the course. We like to tell teachers that the lesson objectives, which I will open in just a moment, are the non-negotiables. These are aligned to standard, and so we ask that should you need to scaffold the objective in the content, should you need to add to it to allow for a deeper dive, should you need to spend an extra 2 days past what was identified as the time in which you would need to complete some of the objectives that are written into the curriculum, that's fine. You have that autonomy. What is a non-negotiable is not teaching them. You must teach those objectives that are set forth, the resources, the time frame, the materials that exist are suggestions for you. If your students need more time, give them more time. If you decide that this objective you need to spend and dig a little bit deeper in because the kids are just so interested in it, no problem. Please do that with the mind, being mindful of the fact that you do have other objectives that you need to get through. So if you're a Global Humanities 7 teacher, you are still starting at this point. So let's scroll down to Unit 1. And in looking at Unit 1, all are set up the same way, 2, 3, and 4. It's 1 unit, 1 quarter. You'll start with looking at, so what's the question of the unit? What are their enduring understandings, and essential questions? We also have a middle years program connection, which will allow for you, once you click on there, if you are an MYP school, to get some of the components you might need, such as the key concepts and statement of inquiries and other kind of jumping off points for you in your planning with your colleagues. The reading and writing skills that are the focus, and then moving down to the actual lesson objectives. I'm scrolling, but we'll scroll back up to the top. You'll see that mainly each unit probably has what are called lesson sequences, 3 to 4. Sometimes there may be 5, but on average, there's 3 to 4 lesson sequences with 3 to 4 lesson objectives that correspond with it. Again, if you're a Global Humanities 7 teacher, you are looking at this framework. This is your foundation. You are not deviating from it. What you are going to do is at the top of each unit, once you get to the lesson objectives, if you're a Global Humanities teacher, you will see a statement that says, if you are teaching Global Humanities, click here for your curriculum crosswalk. And what has been created for you to help kind of you structure and figure out, what is it that I'm teaching? How long do I need to teach it for? What objective am I replacing? What am I doing? I created this for you with the hopes that this will help you figure out what is it you have to do. And so in the first column, you will see that all of the objectives and resources for World Study 7 have been listed for you. And it also tells you when they're supposed to be used. And then it also asks the question in the third column, do I use this resource, or our shorthand for Common Instructional Task, which is a CIT, in Global Humanities 7? And then it will tell you a yes or no. If it says yes, then you're going to click on there and you'll utilize the resource that is there. If it says no, for example, Common Instructional Task, Effects of Geography. And this happens in lesson sequence 7.1.1.2 and 7.1.1.3. Sorry, that's just how we kind of organize all of our objectives. 6th grade does the same, 8th grade does the same, 9th, 10th, 11th. I tell you that no, you're not actually going to do this resource. Instead, you are going to use this resource. And it links you to resources and materials and lessons that were created by a group of teachers that align with more of the Global Humanities focus, which is providing students an opportunity to have more rigorous instruction that aligns to their academic level. Remember, the students that are in Global Humanities courses have been identified by the county as students that are exceeding course or grade level indicators in reading, in math, and in writing. And because the county does not have enough seats at Eastern Middle School, Tacoma Park Middle School, Parkland Middle School, where students apply to be in those programs, they have created a cohort within a cohort at grade level at each middle school to allow students to still have access to that engaging, rigorous instruction, but at their home school. And so these are what these Global Humanities courses and lessons provide for students. So once again, each unit of instruction, 1 unit per quarter, so quarter 1 is unit 1. Sorry, let me get that out of there. You'll go through, I'll identify for you what the resource is, where you would find it, and then if you are completing that resource or if you are not completing that intended resource, and what you have as an option, all the way to the end of the unit. Okay, let me click out of there for you. Same thing happens as you move into unit 2. Oh, sorry, let me slow down a little bit. If you are a World Study 7 teacher, or your World Study 7 teacher or counterpart says, oh, for 7.1.2.1, this is what I'm doing. You just want to double check that crosswalk chart that I was in that has the number sequencing listed for you, and you want to say, oh, am I doing that as well? Oh no, I'm not. And in planning, you can say, hey, yeah, I'm still doing that objective, but in fact, for global humanities, we have a separate lesson that we're going to complete instead. And that's okay. You can still plan together because you're talking about the same content. It's just the process and the end result is going to look different for you and your students. But there is a lot of crossover for you to help with your planning. Additionally, the way in which the structures are set up is it allows for teachers to scroll all the way to the bottom of that unit or lesson objectives that are listed and find those same resources for you. Same thing would happen when you go into Unit 2. If you're teaching global humanities, you're going to click here for your curriculum crosswalk. I'm going to open that up for you. And there you go. The lessons are linked. And you'll notice in Unit 2, there's a mix. And there's at times choice too. I'll ask you to do both. For example, the Common Instructional Task, the DBQ, the Impact of the Black Death, you're going to complete that and you're going to do the Watt-Tyler Peasant Revolt after the Black Death lesson. It's pretty heavy in terms of writing and reading, but again, at the top of your crosswalks that you have for Global Humanities and World Study 7, it lists at the top of each unit what are the non-negotiables for that unit that you need to get through. So for example, in Unit 2, you'll talk about or you'll start introducing the National History Day program with your students. If you are coming to the live session that we are holding, if you're watching this and you're in an asynchronous instruction and you're watching this before July 27th, for some reason you didn't get an email from me, please know that on July 27th at 9 a.m., I'm going to hold a live synchronous opportunity for you to ask follow-up questions and for me to dive a little bit deeper into the National History Day expectations and processes. And there also will be a Global Humanities 7 teacher that can answer additional questions, somebody who's actually taught and implemented this, that you can get some further clarification from. So if you're watching this before July 27th, please know that you can reach out to me, Kelly Champagne, at Outlook, and you can get the link so you can attend the live instruction. And so we can get, so you have an opportunity to ask additional clarifying questions of me and your colleagues who have taught this before. So I'm going to leave the framework right now. And I'm going to go back to our kind of our page here. And I want to recap some things once again. The framework is where all teachers, regardless if you teach Global Humanities 7 or World Study 7, that is your starting point. My Global Humanities colleagues, there is a crosswalk sheet for you for each unit that tells you what are the non-negotiables, that make sure you're aligned to standards, that allows for you to see what from the World Study 7 curriculum am I teaching and what from the World Study 7 curriculum is being replaced with Global Humanities materials. The skills are infused. The resources associated with both Global Humanities and World 7 studies are optional. If you and your colleague have a different way of implementing or different resources that are needed for your students, by all means, you have that autonomy because you are the expert in the room, you are the teacher, so please utilize your expertise and your resources should the ones that exist not meet your needs. That is okay. Let me move on to the next. So what you're going to have in this asynchronous opportunity built in is you have an opportunity to kind of just review some slides. I'm going to direct you to the corresponding slides, specifically 7 through 13. And it just gives you more information, a little bit more meat and potatoes of the framework and Global Humanities 7. So I'm going to allow you time to explore that. And then there will be also questions for you to answer in the end, just to kind of check yourself of, hey, do I really understand kind of the basis of how I'm implementing the Global Humanities 7 curriculum. Additionally, there is a reflection question on the Jamboard. It looks like this, so let me pull it up for you to see. After you utilize, and you'll notice that my World Study 7 colleagues as well, I've kept these questions and I've kept their answers for you as well, because I want you to be able to see what, let me go to World Study 6. Let me make you a sticky note real quick. World Study 7, Global Humanities 7. What I want to make sure that you have the ability to do is reflecting on some key questions. What you're most excited about, what you're most confused about, and what you're nervous about. Most excited about, and I'll tell you why we're doing that in just a second. What are you most nervous about? And what? How do I hit that? What are you still confused about? And what this helps me to do is that this helps me to identify what's going on, kind of where you're at. So again, if you're watching this before July 27th, I use this information to help me gauge what it is I need to cover on the 27th. But also, I will put together kind of an FAQ based on what you have on here. If you tell me that you're still confused about specific things, I will clarify those, and then I will send that information back out to you via email. So this will be read. There will be an opportunity for you to have follow-up from me. Even if you don't attend the live session, or this is post live session, still, if you're watching this in August and you're going through this, and this is in a Canvas module, I want you to know that I'm still checking this throughout the summer, and I will see the list of registered participants, and I will shoot out the FAQ as it becomes available, and also link it on the MCPS Social Studies website, so we have kind of live access to it. But in this module, essentially, you're going to get time to look through the framework, look through the slides that correspond, and then also respond to the Jamboard questions, which again, I will also respond to as well. Okay. I'm going to just scroll through this quickly, because in theory, and where you are right now, this would be post. So I also want to talk about kind of what's informing the resources or products that you're seeing in the World Study 7 curriculum. Should you and your colleague choose to, your PLCs choose to create resources of your own, we just ask that, you're thinking about some of the same resources that we used in the World Study 7 in the Global Humanities 7 curriculum, World History for Us All, the OER project, Learning for Justice, Stanford History Educational Group, and News Literacy Project. These are all free resources. Should you choose to use resources from here, please make sure you're citing them. And you just need to create an account. But they offer valid research, valid sources, and the most up-to-date information, that you can possibly have when you're studying ancient and Middle Age world history. So I just wanted to point that out for you. Let me go here. You're also going to have an opportunity, and I think this is going to be important, and I apologize for going back and forth. Bear with me. Is built in right now as well. It's an opportunity to review a common instructional task or resource, or a common assessment task for Unit 1 or 2. Stay in the land of Unit 1 and 2. You're new to the course. You're trying to figure out, like, hey, what is my first semester going to look like? And then once again, there's an opportunity for you to reflect on the Jamboard. And reflecting on the Jamboard, once again, you're going to see your 6th grade counterparts. Some of you might be a Global Humanities or World Study 6 teacher. So I wanted to keep that on there for your support. And I'm going to duplicate this background. But I can't, so I'm going to write it in there. And once again, I'm going to be asking you to do the following. What is my statement that I'm asking you? Bear with me. Sorry, y'all. Takes a second. Mhm. Okay. So the first thing that I'm asking you is, what is a process or resource that will benefit students and you think students will be excited about? And probably one of the more important ones that we're going to talk about in just a moment. What is a process or resource that exists in the Global Humanities 7 curriculum that will need to be scaffolded, if I could spell, for students? I ask you this one, and I want you to be thinking about this one. And again, we'll talk in more detail, is about the scaffolds. Because you have students in your Global Humanities course in Global Humanities 7 that may have been identified by your school, because you only get a list for excuse me, let me pause there and start again. Your Global Humanities 6 students are identified by the county. Schools may choose to add students beyond that. Some schools haven't and don't in Global Humanities 6, and they kind of keep the core students that have been identified by the county. But by the time we get to Global Humanities 7, your school might have identified additional students. That's okay. That's great. We strongly encourage that. I think it's wonderful. But you might have students in there that may or may not be at the same reading level, right? They might not be exceeding grade level reading standards. They might just be meeting them, but they're still capable of accessing that content. And so what you and your PLC members might have to do is be thinking about, so of the Global Humanities 7 lessons and resources that exist, what is going to need to be scaffolded for my students so they can access it, so they can still engage in that rigorous instruction and participate, but not be thinking that it has to be an all or none situation, meaning, well, they can't do, in your mind, or your PLC's mind, well, if they can't do this piece, then they can't do anything. And so we need to be thinking about students if they are struggling to do this piece, then what can we put into place to support them so they can complete the rest of the task, so they can access the objectives, so they can pursue and be their best selves, right? And so be thinking about ways in which we can apply supports and implement supports, but also understand that scaffolds are not forever. So what you do in quarter 1 and quarter 2 with students might not be the same thing that you're doing in quarter 3 and quarter 4. And with the hopes that by the time you get to quarter 4, that some of the lessons that you have or the resources that have been identified might not need those same scaffolds, and that students are accessing them exactly where they were intended to be. So in looking at common instructional task, in looking at a resource, in looking at the common assessment task, which comes at the end, our shorthand is CAT. Think about ways, reflect about what's going to work really well for students and what you might need to provide additional scaffold or process with them. Also, just some things to point out: look at the crosswalk documents, answer keys, the modern day connections, samples, ESOL supports. You're coming into this curriculum 3-4 years down And we had a team of ESOL teachers come through and look at the World Study 7 curriculum and put ESOL scaffolds and supports in there. So if you have some of your students in Global Humanities 7 that might need that, make sure you're also checking those resources because you can pull them for your needs as well. Again, during this asynchronous time, you're going to have time to plan. Should you choose to do it on your own? Should you choose to do it with your PLC? PLC planning usually is more effective to ensure that everybody is on the same page. But if you need help during your planning, as you're looking at this video asynchronously, again, you're more than welcome to email me. Please email via Outlook to ensure that I respond in a timely manner. Is that there? Oh, right. Okay. Additionally, let's talk about what and that framing that we just went through and the opportunities that you've had to look at specific common instructional tasks or resources from the Global Humanities 7 framework, to look at ways in which you might need a scaffold, to look at how students may or may not be excited for some of the resources, and reflect. I want to make sure that we're on the same page, and I want to make sure that everything that you need to know has been identified. So you're not going to flood the chat. There's nothing to flood because you're watching me post creation. And so I just want to do kind of some true or false with you. And you can't see it. And I want to make sure we're on the same page. And so the first statement is the framework is the foundation for World Study 7 and Global Humanities 7 courses and tells me what I need to teach and for how long. The answer to that is, okay. The answer to that is true. The framework, regardless of what course you're teaching, is the foundation for you. Everything you do, you are jumping off that framework. My Global Humanities colleagues, please remember that there's that crosswalk feature for you, but you are jumping into the World Study 7, Global Humanities 7 framework for your foundation. The common instructional tasks and the common assessment tasks, known as KITs and CATs, are suggested resources to implement with students. The answer is true. They are suggested resources. They are not mandated for you to use. The beauty of those resources is that they have the skills and content already infused together. So we ask that should you not be teaching that resource, should you be adding to it, please make sure that you're still giving students the opportunity to practice whatever skill or resource that has been, or excuse me, skill, not resource, but skill that's been identified for that quarter and that unit. So yes, you are the teacher of the classroom. You know your students best. You know, what's working and what's not, and you might need to change what we have provided. In quarter 1 and quarter 3, I need to implement the common writing task. In quarter 2 and quarter 4, I can implement either the DBQ linked in the framework or a DBQ from the Mini-Qs binder. All right, my Global Humanities 7 colleagues. In quarter 1 and quarter 3, you have what's called a common writing task. You must implement that, and you must implement a DBQ that's been identified for that quarter. Students in Global Humanities have multiple writing points and entry points, and so you need to make sure that you are providing that opportunity and option for them. And additionally, in quarter 2 and quarter 4, Global Humanities 7 teachers, you can implement, you do have a choice. You can implement the DBQ that's linked in the framework or the DBQ binder. The Mini-Qs binder, hold on. Looks like this. I know it's backwards for you, but it's a purple binder. It's called the DBQ project. You need to talk to your RTs, your fellow PLC members, your school, because everybody received a copy of those and you have access to them, and they're just beyond fantastic. You can use those in quarter 2 and 4 as the identified writing component. You do not have to use what's in the curriculum. In quarter 1 and quarter 3, it's a non-negotiable. You must do the common writing task, and the second writing assessment that's linked in there is from the DBQ binder, so you're doing both. If you have questions on the DBQ binder, if you're unclear as to where to find it, your RT says to you, yeah, I don't know where it is. Sorry, you're on your own. Please reach out and I can make copies. I can scan them in for you. We'll make it work. Okay. So be mindful of that. All right. The identified skill for each unit should be taught separately from the content. The answer is false. The identified skill for each unit should not be taught separately from the content. I've had questions about this before, and questions about like, well, hey, what if my students need more help with sourcing? What if my students need more help with writing a claim? And the answer is, okay, no problem. Give them that opportunity. Give them that time. But you still need to make sure that it's not seen as a separate component, that you're not saying Fridays are for skills. No, skills are every day. Friday might be a review. Friday might be an opportunity to assess, but it's not a separate from the content. All right, here we go. I know we didn't talk about this, so I need to make sure that we are clear on this. If you need to give Kelly feedback about an upgrade to a lesson, I can fill out the feedback form or I can email Kelly. This is true and false. So if you have feedback about a lesson from the Global Humanities or World Studies curriculum and you're like, hey, Kelly, I think that if you did X and Y and Z, because when I did this with my students, it worked out really well. I want you to put it in the feedback form that's going to be linked in each unit. And let me know and say, hey, unit 1, lesson sequence 1, 7.1.1.1, here's my upgrade for you. Consider putting this into play. Fine, no problem. Please go ahead and do that. But if there's a link that's not working, you're confused about a document, you can't find a resource, something that requires immediate attention so you can plan appropriately, please email me. No problem. I will happily fix it in less than 24 hours. You get a turnaround response from me because I know it's crucial with your planning, and I know it's needed so you can move forward. So yes, please, anything that's immediate, email me. Anything that's like, hey, here's a great suggestion. Hey, look at this resource that I used. Please link it in the feedback form. It makes it easier so I can track it. And in the summer, when I make some of the larger upgrades, I have those forms so I can pull from them and, you know, in an organized manner, go through each unit and make any of the suggested upgrades that might be beneficial to all. Remember, I'm making upgrades for 12,000 students, 40 middle schools. Sometimes those feedbacks I can't put in there, not because they're not lovely and that you guys aren't doing an amazing job. It's just, it doesn't apply to kind of the whole of the scope of what I have to plan for in terms of making that curriculum. So I want to be clear on that. Me not using a specific feedback is not a slight. It's just, I couldn't use it because again, I'm planning for 12,000 plus students. And we have to be mindful of those. However, we do have a share space. So please, by all means, just upload to that share space on that MCPS website, which, you know, I should have taken you to, and I'm going to take you to in just a moment. All right. Before we actually get to that, let me see if I can save from here. This. And I'm going to take you to MCPS Social Studies, the site that I keep talking about. I want to take you to. When you're on this website, bookmark it. This is your life. Elementary, middle, high. You're going to live in the land of middle school. We have World Study 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to click on World Study 7. And you're going to see some folders that, again, you will have access to. Here's the historical inquiry into Global Humanities 7, which is you, junior achievement, which we will talk about live and in person, and then the links to each unit, planning calendars, et cetera, et cetera. When you are on the website, because I did want to show you the share space, I almost forgot why I took you here, so you can see that. This is, let's make sure it's on here. Here it is. Under instructional planning resources, teacher share spaces. I'm telling you right now, the groups that are doing it, they're living their best life. Really, truly. World Study 7 has one. I'm pretty sure I thought Global Humanities 7 did, so maybe they're just combining it together. But when you click on here, you will see you and your colleagues. Most recently, we have, I know, again, you're watching this in the summer. We have colleagues who are constantly updating, upgrading, providing interactives, lesson scaffolds, whatever the case may be, to tasks that you in Global Humanities 7 have to do and people in World Study 7 have to do. Utilize this space. If you take from this space, please add to this space because your colleagues will love you for it. And it's just a great resource. And I think that something for you to consider, right? I just want to kind of scroll through that. A lot of Nearpod assignments on here to help people get through COVID and virtual learning, but still can be applicable to in your classroom. Some of these Nearpod assessments. So be mindful of that and know that that exists. So when I say share space, that's what I'm referencing. Get out of there. Let me move back here. So the common writing task. Again, you're going to have time to read the common writing task, to review kind of the Global Humanities 7 materials related to the common writing task, and then respond on a Jamboard. Again, I'm giving you the directions, but in your Canvas module, this is what your opportunity will be. But I want to open this up so you can see the common writing task. And the common writing task that you're going to direct students to do is which type of modification, agricultural or transportation, contributed the most to the success of the empire, the Incan Empire. Be sure to include at least 2 specific modifications under the category of your choice to support your claim. And for the modification selected, identify and explain which source provided the strongest evidence to support your claim. This is what students are going to do. There is a plethora of materials and resources. You'll notice it differentiates between student support and teacher support. Sample responses, scored rubric, scored sample responses from students, like actual student responses that you can use, how to help analyze a response, scaffolded materials for our Ls, peer editing, how students can do like a rainbow read and an edit, all there for you to help with planning for and implementing and scoring the common writing task. And so you'll have an opportunity in just a moment to go through those. Questions, again, related to it, you can put in the Jamboard or you can email me. But I just want you to have an opportunity to look at one of the tasks that Global Humanities 7, World Study 7, regardless of what you're teaching, this common writing task you are completing and implementing with your students, regardless of what you teach. This is it. This comes at the end of the unit, or close to it. I think you have one objective after it. So I want you to have an opportunity to see what it is students are going to have to know and be able to do with content, process, and product. So you can kind of start thinking, so how do I prepare them for that and move backwards in your design of planning? And so everything is linked for you. You have access to the directions, you have access to corresponding Global Humanities materials, and you have access to the Jamboard. Additionally, I wanted you to have a document that provides you a list of ESOL classroom strategies. These are great for our ESOL students, essential for our ESOL students, but awesome for all students. And what it does, it gives you reading strategies and resources and instructional strategies and resources with hyperlinks to specific material, writing strategies and resources, and classroom environment strategies and resources that you can utilize with your ELs, but also would be just fantastic for the global humanities or your world studies students. That, remember, not all of our students learn in the same way. Just because they're categorized as a global humanities student doesn't mean that they wouldn't need supports for reading, writing, accessing text, figuring out what it means to be in a classroom and creating the essential environment for students as well. So again, a resource for you to have, for you to look through, for you to keep in your records. We use this in social studies, and we have updated and hyperlinked for you specific examples of some of the suggestions that we have provided. And then last but not least, if you have feedback, you're thinking, well, I have questions about that common writing task, Kelly. Great. Here's a feedback form for you to complete. It's in Google, and I can check it, and I can get back to you either specifically because we are collecting your emails, so I can email you back, or I can just do a general if it needs to apply to everybody. But again, this was an opportunity for you to see the framework, understand where you as a global humanities teacher fits into that framework and course load, for you to see the crosswalk, for you to have access to reviewing resources and materials that were there, to understand what the non-negotiables were of your course, and then also to have an opportunity to process one of the culminating assessments of quarter one and provide feedback or ask clarifying questions should you need to do that. I am always available. I can always be reached at my Outlook address. You're always welcome to give feedback, always welcome to ask questions, always please welcome to ask me to come out and plan with you. I can come to your school, or the beauty of, looking at the great thing about virtual instruction is that now we know we have access to Google Meet and Zoom. So should you need me to set up a Zoom call with you so I can help with planning, that's an option for you as well. But just know that you have somebody, you're not running solo. And if I can be of any assistance or support, again, please feel free to reach out. I hope that this kind of basic, giving you an opportunity to really focus you as to what you need to do to help prepare you for the school year and your planning was useful. And again, it was great to have this opportunity to share this information with you, and don't hesitate to reach out. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to stop our recording, and I wish you all a great school year. Take care.